This is the Untitled Car Show with your hosts for the evening, Ike.
Billy, it's your day. That's what you've been practicing for.
And Proc.
Hey, buddy, roll your window down so I can ask you about your dead friend.
We hope you thoroughly enjoy the show. Thanks for listening.
It's the Untitled Cars Show. Thank you all for joining us this week. This week we got big guest, big honor, Matt Farah over here from Drive, the Smoking Tire, and from MSNBC Sports program, this Drive. So Matt, how you doing today?
What's up? How you guys doing?
Yeah, Proc is still out doing honeymoon business, so it's just me today. So something about being with the people he loves and all that bullshit.
Well, congratulations to him.
Yeah. So, Matt, it's one of those things. You host probably one of the best automotive-related podcasts on the planet. You know, outside of this one, of course, the Smoking Tire. You guys are like 100 and so episodes in, and it is phenomenal. So if you're listening to this and haven't heard the Smoking Tire, please go listen.
Yeah, we're about to hit 200 episodes. Actually, I think we're 4 or 5 short of 200.
You got anything big planned coming up for episode 200? No spoilers.
You know, I frankly, up until we just started talking about it right now, I haven't even thought about it. Actually, maybe I should start thinking about it.
Maybe.
I don't know. What should I do? What do you do for 200 shows? I don't know.
I think you
Go
auction
200
off a Aston Martin if you're me. I don't know.
You know, hey man, there's certainly been days with my Aston Martin that I wouldn't mind auctioning it off, but they're fortunately few and far between.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say, hearing about you did, just to get right into this, you did a manual swap into your Aston Martin.
Yeah, you know, the Aston Martin Vanquish, the first generation one, is one of the, you know, the prettiest cars of all modern times. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful from every angle. And, you know, of course, it's a V12, and a lot of the engineering was done by Ford, you know, and so for the most part, it actually works properly, which is nice. But the gearbox was just one of the worst transmissions ever put into a car. And so, you know, what I did was actually send the car back to England to the factory at Aston Martin Works at Newport Pagnell.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do is they actually do convert it to a manual gearbox. It's surprisingly intrusive, because actually it's not just, you know, just changing the transmission. They actually have to change the dashboard, because the, you know, the buttons to select the gear are on the dashboard, and they get rid of those. So by doing it there, as opposed to by doing it in like a tuner shop in LA or something, you know, you actually do get a car that comes back, you know, looking factory fresh.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. They never offered that, at least here in the States, as far as I'm aware, with the manual transmission in it, or were you just unable to find one? Is that why you did it?
What do you mean?
Like going through all the time and effort to actually put a manual transmission into that did a little bit of research, and I can't find if they were listed in sale in the United States with the manual, or if it was just easier just to find one.
No, the car was never sold in the U.S. or anywhere in the world with a manual gearbox. All of those cars were paddle shifters when they were new. But the thing is, the transmission itself is a T56, same as you'd find in a Viper or a Corvette.
Yeah.
And just rather than having a lever and a clutch pedal, it has a computer that operates the clutch, and it has a little robot that moves the transmission through its gears. But it is a standard T56 gearbox. So basically it sounds simple, but all you have to do is pull out the computers, install a clutch pedal, and install, a shifter. And then basically, you know, they have to remake the dashboard and make it look all pretty. but mechanically, it's not actually that complicated.
Well, yeah, that's amazing, and props to
It's
you for doing that.
It's actually
Hmm?
part of the reason it's so easy to convert, as opposed to, say, if you wanted to do a Ferrari 458, it would be nearly impossible. Because it's so easy to do this one. Part of the reason that it's easy is also the reason that it's a terrible automatic gearbox, because they've basically taken a manual and approximated it, with a computer, and so they get rid of all that, and it's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, it's like habitual with Ford because my wife's Fiesta has the same manual controlled by, computers, and it is just terrible. And when you drive the actual manual version of it, it's like, oh, this is what this is supposed to fucking feel like.
Well, that automatic in the Fiesta is different. That's the power shift dual clutch. It's not the same as the regular manual gearbox.
Hmm.
And the Aston Martin, I mean, it's literally exactly the same gearbox.
Proc left. He leaves me alone with the computer stuff, and I fuck it up somehow. Uh, so yeah, no, it's sad. It isn't automatic on the Fiesta. I'm trying to convince her to get a Fiesta ST, so we'll see what happens with that. But
Well, I'll
Matt,
sell you mine at the end of December if you want it.
why? What are you getting?
I'm getting a Focus RS. I'm probably going to keep the Fiesta, but we're way under mileage on the lease, and so it would actually be, I could, if I want to, I could make a little bit of money buying out the lease and then just selling it myself. I don't plan to. I just sort of came up with that right now. But if you want to buy a fully modified Fiesta, I will entertain offers.
No, as much as I'm tempted by that, I'm actually right now talking with the local Ford guy about ordering a nitro blue Focus RS because my V70R
Yeah.
has the, yeah, that's a gorgeous color on that car.
That's what I ordered in my car. I get mine in January.
Yeah, and I'm trying to like. So of course, more technical difficulties because we got a big guest on. So Matt, we were talking about what got you into the automotive sector.
Basically, I loved cars. I wanted to design cars. It didn't really work out that way, but I knew I wanted to do something with cars because I couldn't take the idea of going to an office every day and just doing some whatever job I hated. And so I had to be around something I enjoyed. So, after working at a couple of dealerships and an exotic car rental company and another number of other places, my friend Larry and I opened a car wash together. And you may have heard of Larry. He does detailing videos about cars. His company is called Ammo. He has a show called Drive Clean.
Yeah.
And so we opened a shop together, and he was sort of the detailing expert, and then I was kind of a PR guy and, the engagement guy and social media, whatever. And we noticed that our customers were only driving like back and forth to the car wash and not, putting any real miles on their cars. And so we came up with a driving club, and it was sort of like in the early days of Google Maps, like 2005, 6, and we would put together these elaborate routes with these Google Maps routes people had never seen before. And we had people, who were paying members of our club to come drive with us. And after about a year, we had like 75 members or something. And I hired a guy right out of college to come and shoot video of our drives. And I thought that would be a nice thing to have. Like YouTube had just launched.
Yeah.
And so I hired this guy, and he was insane. His name is Tom Morningstar, and he was my co-producer for like many years, and he works at Drive, and he's worked on a lot of things I've worked on now. And he started making these videos, and we did a few of them, and then one day he brought home a microphone that was like, here, host the video. And I hosted the video and cracked some jokes, and literally like a week later, a guy was like, called me and was like, I saw your video. I'm starting a YouTube network. Call me. And I had a job like a week later.
That's awesome.
I don't think that could ever happen again.
So
I think the internet is too big now. Like, that was 10 years ago.
Mhm.
And like, I just don't think that chain event could happen again today. I see a lot of people like, it was more than that. Like, it wasn't like I went from that to ended. The company went under when the market, took a shit in 2009.
Yeah.
And me and Tom, continue. We moved to California and started the Smoking Tire, and just started making videos and just kept going.
Yeah. Well, is that, by the way, back when I saw you, weren't you on Bull Run for an episode or something back in the day on Spike? Or am I just completely
Or
missing
on
it?
Spike, yeah, I did the I was like the Black Magic Shine Pro on that show. So when somebody would like win a challenge, I'd show up and like detail their car. I was basically like a walking product placement. Super easy gig though. 3 weeks of work. It was about 30 seconds of work a day.
Yeah. I remember that back in the day. That was amazing. No, but it is funny that it's like, it used to be like the Wild West of the internet, back when no one thought you could make any money doing anything. No one, gave a crap. And then as soon as people realized eyeballs are getting on everything, people are getting involved, and like, it's become big business. And like, your site, for people, again, if you are listening to this and you haven't been to Drive on YouTube, go sign up for the Drive Plus too. We kind of missed out on it, but you said you used to be a photographer, and I kind of want to talk about, like, your director of photography for both the NBC show and for the YouTube thing. It is phenomenal. It's up there, I think, probably as good, if not better, than Top Gear has been.
Well, Top Gear has 20 times our budget. So,
Yeah.
so those guys can do a lot of stuff that we can't do. But, the same 7 people, myself included, make the entire NBC show and Drive and the Smoking Tire YouTube series. Drive, the NBC show, is made with 7 people. It's 3 hosts, 3 cameramen, and an editor. I mean, that's literally it. So most television shows are made with 30 or 40 or 50 people. We do it with 7.
Wow.
So, I think the fact that we've had so long to practice, on the internet, and we've been doing it so long, I think there are very few film crews in the world that are as efficient at shooting cars as my guys are.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the highest compliment. It seems like way more than just 7 people doing it. Like, when you watch it, it looks like you have a full camera crew following you. And
that is by design.
Yeah. Well, like, and when you think about it, like in the feature you had, All Cars Go to Heaven, which is phenomenal. And again, go pay the $2.99 just to rent it. It's well worth more than
We
that.
made that with 4 people.
Like, that's what I'm halfway through it, or I was halfway through it when I like had to get up, take care of my daughter, and come back. And I had the thought of, like, they only had the 4, maybe 5 people with them, and that is crazy to me. And you talk about it in the program that it's, you don't have a safety net, you don't have anything.
The funny thing about our movie All Cars Go to Heaven is that the cast and the crew are the same people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if you see someone on camera, the other person is holding the camera. If you see Tom on camera, I'm probably shooting it. You know what I mean? And so our guys, they work very, very hard, but we're such a small crew that, and me, I'm a professional photographer by trade, so I get in there and I shoot sometimes as well. It's just the needs of the business sometimes. So, a lot of people ask, how do you not just, get good at talking about cars? I spend like half my day editing video or shooting or whatever, and you have to develop those skills, because on the internet, you can't afford to pay someone every time you need something done. You have to learn how to do it yourself. So as we're talking right here, like right before you called, I'm sitting here editing video in my office.
Yeah. I think that's what makes, like, the whole, like, car, like internet and like podcasts, everything that you're doing, so much more enjoyable to watch than like, not to cast any dispersions on it, but like the Discovery Channel programs, or like where they're talking about how you fix up a car and take care of it, and you can tell everything is just fake, 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 and it's people who don't have a passion and like an understanding of what people want to see from automobile. Get it, and that's what makes it amazing. Like, and I think that's what makes it such a
Yeah,
good
I
thing to
mean,
watch.
we like to joke that our company should be called Can't Get Fired Productions, because we can do anything we want, and you can't fire us. Unless I can somehow get kicked off the internet, which I don't see happening. I will always have a job doing this as long as there are such things as cameras and Wi-Fi.
Right.
So I it's sort of, the internet sort of still is the Wild West. I mean, definitely there's a limited amount of dollars, and there's a lot of people fighting for those dollars, but there's essentially no rules in how you do it. For a while, everyone was kind of on this one format, which we started at the Smoking Tire and which has continued on Drive. What makes money are these one takes that I do that require almost no equipment and almost no editing ability and very little artwork. But, the internet's about numbers and volume. And so if I can produce 3 car videos a week by myself, that's the way to do it online.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's great because it's honest, and it's like the ad hoc stuff is amazing, and it's just, I can't pay you enough respect for like what you've turned a space on YouTube into, because it is such free form, and it is so uh up to the people trying to come in, and like it's not like TV where you used to only have a set amount of choice. You have infinite choice, and the fact that you guys have been around for so long kind of proves the point. But you've turned it into like an amazing space. And again, if you haven't seen Drive, go see Drive. And like the interviews you do, like talking about like the single cam stuff, like when the tune section of Drive is amazing, when you interview people, when you talk to them about their cars and like how they're personalized. My favorite of which is the like RX 7, the one kid had, like that had plywood and everything on it. So it's you're doing a phenomenal job. I'm sorry to keep batting on about that, but it's true. And um, kind of to move to it, like you've driven so much and you've done so many vehicles, like from like personally owned vehicles by people to like supercars and like uh, press cars and all that. Do you have a favorite car you've ever driven coming out of that?
I mean, I drive so many cars that it'd be really hard to pick one. I can't really pick one.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of just madness and stuff, the Venom GT, the Koenigsegg Agera R. I got 5 minutes with a McLaren F1 once. That kind of stuff really stands out. But there's a lot of other stuff. I get surprised all the time. I mean, I've been very pleasantly surprised by $5,000 Hondas. My Fox Body Mustang makes me very happy. There's all different reasons to enjoy different cars, and a lot. There's no one car I could say, yeah, if I just had that one for different things.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of, I forget what I think it was a podcast I was listening to where you were talking about the Nismo GTR you kind of drove in the Japan and the can't speak in the Japan special on MSB, and basically your complaint about it is that it wasn't good at the skill. It wasn't good enough and costly enough to be a real race car, because there's better race cars for cheaper, and there's cheaper road cars, and that's kind of what turns you off to it. So like,
yeah, I mean, it is trying to be too many things. it's too heavy and too big to really make a proper, track car. But it's too kind of jerky and that kind of stuff. Then it's very stiff to be a road car. Now, of course, I was driving the Nismo version. I wasn't driving the regular version. So it's going to be stiffer and it's going to be, more hardcore. But for me, if I want a car for a weekend, race car, track car, it's going to be light. It's going to be tossable, that kind of thing. And maybe it would be less cushy than the GTR. And if I want a car to drive around every day, it's going to be smoother and quieter and et cetera, et cetera. So I'm of the school of thought where I would just have two cars, especially, considering that car is $140,000. You could buy a Z06 and a Mercedes. You know what I mean? So, but, not everyone's like that. A lot of people only have one parking space, or whatever. So I get that there are people who want that, but I think that despite that car's accomplishments on the Nürburgring, the fact that they don't sell very many of them says that a lot of people out there agree with me.
Yeah. Well, and then I'm glad we talked about the Focus RS between because I was trying to put this in my mind. Like the Focus RS is, a Focus brought to its ultimate dimension. It's super fast. It's 4-wheel drive. They went crazy with it. They just let the engineers go nuts with it. And the Nismo is kind of the same thing, but the price difference, I think, is what separates those two. They're both faster than, way faster than they should be. And they're both rough and kind of, I'm sure the Nismo beats you up more than the RS, but it's I don't know, even to the extent of my V70R, it's a crazy souped up version. They just let the engineers go wild with it, and somehow it's better. And yet, I think when you reach a degree with a supercar like the Nismo, it just you should have let the engineers go nut in the beginning and not waited. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to maintain a balance. But it's most important to please your customers. I mean, there's a lot of cars that I don't necessarily love that they sell a ton of. I like what I like, don't like what I don't like, but ultimately it's going to be the sales. So if they were selling 10,000 GTRs a year, I'd go, maybe I'm missing something. 2-year waiting list for Hellcats.
Yeah.
Tells me something.
Yeah. That's a very good point. Yeah, because it's kind of to the same extent, but what it might be. The Hellcat is kind of what you want out of that car because I used to own a couple Challengers, and you always just wanted crazy, insane amounts of horsepower out of that car, and damned, the bridges on everything else. Just give me more. So maybe that's just the difference make there is the base GTR is just so good that the Nismo just doesn't need to exist.
Well, it needs to exist in the sense that the base GTR hasn't really been changed all that much since 2009. And they need to have new reasons for people to buy new GTRs. Otherwise, they'd sell even less.
Sure.
So, progress needs to happen for sure. And, to their credits, I mean, when I go to track days, I tend to see GTRs. So, I mean, there are people who drive them on racetracks. Yeah. And as far as I can tell, those people like them. But, progress has to happen. And so I could say, yeah, the Nismo doesn't need to exist, but, those guys, it's their job to make that car go as fast as it can go. And so I'm certainly not going to hate on any car company for making their product go faster.
Yeah. I guess I shouldn't rag on them too much. Please keep making. Well, Nissan's engineers are just crazy go nuts anyway. I mean, they put that drivetrain into a Juke. I mean, There's got to be way too much sake somewhere in that damn company.
Yeah.
Changing gears a little bit here. Uh, so you had the Japan special. You've had the Germany special. You've driven all over this, great world of ours. I'm just kind of curious. Do you have a like favorite place to drive, and do you have a like favorite or like worst drivers you've experienced doing it?
Well, I mean, probably my two favorite places I've ever driven would be the Swiss Alps. You know, the what they call the high passes.
Hmm.
It's sort of, in LA we call them canyons. In Switzerland they call them high passes. They're basically the windy roads that go through the mountains. And in Switzerland, I mean, you just can't believe how spectacular they are. Stelvio Pass is probably the most famous one.
Hmm.
Although I don't personally think Stelvio would crack my top 5 in terms of awesome roads in Switzerland.
Really?
No, all the roads I drove, like Suston Pass and Grimsel Pass, really were a lot better than Stelvio, I think. Stelvio is a bit of a novelty. If you're Top Gear and you can close the whole road, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a different story. But if you're driving it just like a normal guy, it's not that cool. It's very tight and very narrow, and you can't really go very fast.
Yeah.
Or New Zealand. I mean, New Zealand's roads were absolutely spectacular, and I would go back there just to drive around anytime.
I haven't had a chance to get there.
As far as bad driving goes, I mean, I don't really think anything touches the Middle East. Dubai and the areas outside of Dubai, you see in cars.
Yeah.
And it also seems like everywhere we go, there's just horrific traffic. I mean, Dubai, Japan, both had absolutely terrible traffic. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I saw the Mideast special, and I think when you got lost and you had like no cell phone service, and it was like the dirt road. I think that's like the only
Oh, wait,
time
hold on. Yeah.
yeah, like I saw like genuine fear in your eyes, like from like I think I'm lost.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. Oh, fuck. Wait. Sorry. I don't require much. You know what I mean? I don't. I'm not really what you'd call a diva when it comes to traveling.
Hmm.
But I was not exactly thrilled with being in a non-English speaking country. Having basically no idea where I was in an Aston Martin. With just me and one camera guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no one behind the camera running logistics on that. That was literally just me and a guy. And he didn't know anything. He's my fucking housemate, that guy. It's not like he's from there and knows what's up. So, actually coming back across the border into the UAE from Oman, the border patrol confiscated my radios.
Huh. Yeah, that's got to be scary.
Apparently they don't like communications.
Yeah, that's the whole area is so stable, and that's one of those things. I now that we're talking about it, it like really puts in perspective that it's only 7 guys. I mean, like in the back of your head, you go, "Oh, nothing's ever going to happen to Matt. He's driving around in Biddies. I'm sure there's like 5 cars following him, and they got everyone." No,
Yeah.
it's just you and the guy in the car with you, and that's it. And that's crazy.
Pretty much. Yeah, that was basically it for Oman. Although the gas was cheap. I think gas was like 42 cents a gallon in Oman.
Wow. Yeah. Well,
I think I pulled up the Aston Martin for like $12 or plus some absurd. I mean, it was really like it was less than $15 that I filled up the Aston for.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that makes you want to move there is the cheap ass gas and the awesome.
No, I'll pay for my gas and stay here. Thanks.
You just like your freedom of the press too much, sir. That's all it is.
I just don't want to live somewhere that looks that much like the Bible.
I think the Bible was filmed there. I'm not 100% on that, but
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Or a technical issue. Sorry. Okay. So this damn thing is driving me nuts. Um, so, like I said, you've had access, driven all over the world, have access to a lot of places. Like you have the factory segment on Drive, where you've been in like a couple of big ass factories, and I can't remember off the top of my head which ones. But has there been like a facility or anything? Hmm?
I've been to a few, yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, has there been a facility or anything that like said no? Has anyone ever really given you like the turn down that you're just dying to get into?
To get into a facility?
Well, facility or like some manufacturer won't give you a car to drive. I know you were complaining about driving, not being able to drive the GT350R recently, but has there been one where you've just been dying to get to and it's just been like not available, like facility, track, or car?
I mean, there's for every yes I get, there's quite a few no's.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot. I mean, I've never driven a P1 or a LaFerrari, or I've never been in a Ferrari press launch. Actually, I have my first ever Ferrari press car coming next week. I've got a California T, and yeah, I'm hoping. Not that I'm not going to give an honest review of the car, but if I'm a little friendlier than normal, it's because I was told I could get the 488 next. And so, what are you going to do? You know what I mean? There's editorial independence, and then there's honesty, and then there's him going, you can have the 488 next. And so, and I did just drive the 488. I'm hosting 5 episodes on Esquire TV, their car of the year. And I drove the 488, and I got to drift it around an airfield, and it's just ridiculous. It's the best. But no, there's been a bunch of those. I mean, it's there's a lot of, for people who make TV, people who don't make TV are always going, well, why didn't you just, as an example, here's a basic example. It happens all the time. If you saw, we did for Drive on NBC. We drove 3 muscle cars from Detroit to Watkins Glen, and I had a Z28. Spinelli had a Hellcat, whereas Chris Harris had a Mustang GT, not a Shelby GT350.
Yeah.
And everyone's going, oh, why didn't you have the 350? Because they didn't exist.
Yeah. Because
there were like 2 of them in the country, and they were the same ones that everyone had pictures of, and it couldn't work logistically. Like, that's it. If you're Top Gear, you legitimately can just make cars appear. If you're us, you still have to, play by rules.
Yeah. Well, I think you guys get there. I mean, something's got to fill the void, like the vacuum that's been left by Top Gear and the BBC. And it's been quite an amazing, like, basically year and a half where, Top Gear's been, the normal crew's going to Amazon, so they'll be out for a little bit. And then you got the actual BBC broadcast isn't coming up, and something's got to fill the void. And I'm sure your numbers might have been going up recently, because if you just look at how you film and how everything is, you guys might be headed that direction. I don't want to blow too much smoke up
we'll see. I mean, I don't think Top Gear would work on American TV. I mean, I know they do Top Gear on American TV with Adam and Tanner and Rutt, and I like all those guys, and I think that they do a good job. But you couldn't make real Top Gear here. And if you can't do that, then there's really not a void to fill. I mean, without the BBC, there isn't Top Gear. We have commercials and advertisers and people who will sue you. Yeah. You know what I mean? If Richard Hammond made that crack about Mexicans, in America, he'd have gotten fired. He wouldn't have to just make an apology that was even kind of a joke on its own. He'd be done. If Clarkson said any number of things that he said on Top Gear, that show would be done. The only reason Top Gear became Top Gear is because the BBC didn't need to rely on advertisers. If you go back and watch season 1 of Top Gear, if that shit was on America, they would never have gotten the second season. I mean, it was just, oh, well, this is our car show, so okay.
Yeah.
And by kind of what is known as new Top Gear.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of like, to get back to the drive. I think that's what kind of gave you guys, and why you guys, in my opinion, are one of the best automotive, programs out there, is because you did have time. It's been so long, and you've had time to develop and become what you are now. And it's not the same as Top Gear, but like, I think a lot of people are getting the, like, you're the methadone to the crack or whatever. Like, you're not the same
look,
high.
there's not going to be a new Top Gear, but
No.
hopefully there'll be something else.
Yeah.
And for every person who is over the traditional car TV model, which is the build show, whether it's Orange County Choppers or Richard Rawlings, whatever. And for the record, I like Richard, actually. We've been friends for a very long time, back in the Bull Run days. And I like Richard. And he's doing his thing, and Richard is a fucking hustler, man. I mean, I can't, I can't hate on Richard for doing his thing, although I don't watch his show, or any of those shows, really. I think there is room out there for a smarter, more enthusiast-oriented show.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you guys feel. And if you're not watching it, go fucking watch it.
Well, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is it's smart, and it doesn't play down to people. Like, a good example is, I don't know if any other program, Top Gear included, not to give too much away, but when your Jeep broke down and All Cars Go to Heaven, I don't know if that would have even made it into the cut. I think a lot of people would just kind of gotten rid of that, like, oh, something happened, and now we have another car. Not to give away that.
Oh, well, in All Cars Go to Heaven, All Cars Go to Heaven is basically produced on a very basic plan. We're going to buy some cars, and we're going to drive them from here to here, and then we just film everything that happens, for better or worse. And that's how it is for the first movie, and for All Cars Go to Heaven 2 that we're editing right now. It's the same exact deal.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait.
If you have a cool enough premise and you have good characters, you don't need to write a whole lot of it. You can kind of just say, well, here's what we're going to do, and we're going to bring back what we bring back, and you hope it's good. But a lot of people can't guarantee drama. They can't guarantee humor, so they write it, and they fake it, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
Especially in a lot of TV today. And I say that as someone who works on TV.
Yeah. But again, that's what makes it so awesome. So, we'll move from the blowing the smoke up your ass segment back to like questions on the other side. So, let's go and let's start with, like, you started driving, I'm assuming, around the age of 16. So it's been a couple of years. So can we go through a brief history of the cars Matt's owned?
Of the cars I've owned?
Yeah.
Well, I started with a 1992 Lexus LS 400 that I bought from my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I went from there. I bought a Subaru Legacy GT, and I sold that and bought a Mustang, which I put a new motor in and a bunch of expensive parts, and it was great. And I sold that when I moved to college in Pennsylvania, and I got a Mercury Mountaineer SUV. Right around the same time I bought my Corvette. My Corvette stayed in New York when I went to college.
Mm-hmm.
And then, let's see, after the Mountaineer, I had an Audi S4, a B6 Audi S4. Then I sold the S4 and bought a Hummer, which was really stupid. H1 Hummer. I don't ever recommend buying one of those. They're just apocalyptic shit boxes.
Well, hold on. We just had Doug on the show, and he loves his crazy Hummer. For those who don't know, Doug Demuro, he owns the Hummer from Jalopnik. Crazy
I
bad?
tried to tell him not to buy that thing. They're terrible. But he likes it because it constantly gives him something to write about. That's different. I had mine when it
Did you have the terrible motor in it as well? I guess they never came to the civilians with a good
He has
motor.
the gas engine. I have the diesel. The diesel, they both suck. And I sold the Hummer and I bought a Mini, a John Cooper Works Mini.
Ooh.
That was awesome. And I sold the Mini to start the Smoking Tire.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have a car. I had my Corvette, and then my daily was a motorcycle, Suzuki SV650. And I later sold the SV650 and got a Vespa, and the Vespa was awesome. Then I bought a Raptor, Ford Raptor.
Love those.
Had that for a couple years. I sold that and got a Volt, Chevy Volt that I really liked a lot. And I just gave the Volt to my sister. She moved to LA, so I gave it to her. She really likes it. And now I have a DeLorean. I still have my Corvette. I have an Aston Martin Vanquish that I bought like 10 years ago. Obviously, we talked about the manual gearbox.
Yeah.
I have my Fox Body Mustang that I just spent about 18 months. I didn't build it because I'm a shitty wrench, but I, came up with the concept and had experts in their respective field to execute that. And then I just, now I have the Lexus as well with 925,000 miles on it, trying to get to 1 million miles on that. And I have a Yamaha Zuma scooter to run around Venice in. And then I also, I get a new press car every week. So I have cars coming out of my ass right now. I have too many cars.
Never such a thing as too many cars.
Well, there is when you only have a car. I'm only in LA like 6 days a month. So when you have 6 cars and you're in town 6 days a month, it doesn't leave a whole lot of time to drive them.
Yeah. No, I saw Mr. Regular, regular car review, and that was your DeLorean.
Yeah.
That was a great review, but I want to go back further. I love the idea that you had the Hummer and then went to a Mini and then to a Vespa eventually. Like, you can't really get down from, one side of the food chain to another. The only way that could be better is if you turned into Hummer to buy the Vespa.
It's I was like a ping pong ball. I was bouncing back and forth, between big cars and small cars. I've decided I actually prefer a small to medium sized car. Yeah. Like when I get the Focus RS, like for me, that's going to be about the right size car.
Yeah. Well, you have and there's not really a faster car in my mind in the real world in terms of like being able to zip through traffic and have the horsepower to get past most of the competition when you're out on the expressway.
I mean, yeah, ours is modified quite a bit. It's really, really fast. We use it as a camera car when we're filming for Tuned or for the Smoking Tire or whatever. And, all these modified tuner cars that I drive, the one thing that every car I've pretty much ever filmed has in common is when we're in the canyons, none of them can catch the Fiesta. The Fiesta is faster than all of them, and so it's not just speed or handling, but it's an accessibility. And maybe it's that I'm more familiar with the car, but a lot of these other cars, I can't just get in them and go absolutely batshit right out of the gate. And in the Fiesta, I can get in that car and really hurl it at an insane speed down a back road. And it's great fun. Every time I drive that car, it makes me smile.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never had a bad experience, even in my wife's naturally aspirated, 1.6 with the auto tragic transmission. Like driving that thing around here in Amish country, it's still fun. It's just you have no get up and go, but you never have to hit the brakes, which is amazing. And that ST has I'm sure now even much better brakes. Have you touched the brakes in that, or just left those?
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're breaking up here. No, so one of the interesting things. So you had the Volt, and I don't know if you heard our Bob Lutz episode, but that was the car he was most proud of making. Like that was his like giant middle finger to the industry as the way out is kind of the way like I got from it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. The biggest problem with the Volt was that it was not explained to customers well. I thought the Volt was an absolutely incredible car. I mean, the the materials on the interior were economy car stuff, but the refinement that you get from having an electric car, I put maybe 12,000 miles on it. I think I might have put gas in it 6 times, maybe 7 times.
Yeah.
The actual, I leased it, but, the actual out-of-pocket costs to drive that car for 2 years was like ridiculously low. I mean, really, it was cheap. More importantly, I really enjoyed driving it, actually. It was if you, in LA, you see me driving in the canyons and stuff in my videos, but that's not everyday driving in LA. In LA, it's light to light. It's a big grid. You're sitting in traffic. There's honking and cyclists, and you really just want to fucking get there. And so, the Fiesta ST or my Mustang is not good for that. But the Volt was just brilliant. I mean, it was a lot more like a Tesla than it was, like a Prius.
Yeah. Well, I think that was the big, and it's still kind of the big disgrace with them, is GM does a lot of things great. The one thing they do not do is advertising, and I don't get it. Like, I am not the biggest fan of Dodge because I've had some bad experiences with them, but every time I see a Dodge commercial, I'm like, oh, I kind of want a Dodge again. Wait, no, I remember they treated me like shit. But you see a GM commercial and you go, like, they were putting on in the 70s. Like, I half expect, like, the Like a Rock tune to come on every time I see a Chevy commercial. It's just tragic. But out of all the cars you own, did you regret getting rid of any of them, or are you just happy with?
Yeah, the S4. When I sold the S4 and got the Hummer, I realized almost immediately I shouldn't have done that. That was the one that. In hindsight, if I could have kept my Mustang in high school, and not sold that, but there was. I didn't really regret it because what I ended up with was that truck, the Mountaineer in college, which for going back and forth from New York to Philadelphia and carrying cars and people and stuff around was actually great. I regret selling the S4.
I liked. It wasn't an Avant. It was just a normal sedan.
No, it was a regular sedan, 6-speed, silver. It was there was nothing about it that made it special beyond being an S4. But at the time, It was just a really great driving car, and I put an exhaust on it. It sounded awesome with the V8. It was just a very nice car that I got rid of to get this Hummer, and it was just stupid.
Everyone loved the look of the Hummer back in the day, but everyone I know who's ever driven or rode one has always complained about it, with the exception of Doug, which I think is just because he's either crazy or, like you said, it's just all about the article.
No, it's because it gives him something to write about. Doug, every week Doug writes a column about his own cars. Yeah. So having a car that has shit go wrong with it all the time gives you more to write about. So it's, that's why he likes it. I'm certain he doesn't like driving it because it sucks to drive.
All right. It is. Obviously was the Hummer, like just mechanical issues out the ass, or just terrible to be in.
I mean, it's literally like driving a school bus. I mean, if you think about getting in a school bus and driving that every time you need to go to the grocery store, that's what it's like. I'd have to calculate like longer drive times to get places. And it's giant, but it only fits 4 people.
Yep.
And I had a couple mechanical issues. I mean, if I loved the car, the mechanical issues wouldn't have been that big a deal, but they were made extra annoying by the fact that I didn't even really like driving it that much. I bought it and it was the coolest thing in the world for like 2 weeks. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is my car? Fuck.
Yeah. The immediate. I'm sure there's a German word for that. So.
Scheiße.
Yeah, really. Yeah. One of my wife's friends come to pick up some of our stuff right before we moved. Like, we had a whole bunch of stuff, in our shed, and she needed like a storm door or something. And her mom is like off the boat from Germany, and that's the only German word I heard. And I kept hearing her say "Scheiße, Scheiße." I'm like, I know what that means. Our storm door is not that bad. Yeah. All right. Well, I kind of want to. We're getting close to the end of time here, and I want to, let you get back to what you were doing, Matt. I really appreciate you coming on here. Have you had, you've been out and you've been in this great world and driven many cars, as we've explained. Have you had that perfect moment where you've been on the perfect road with the perfect car, and it was just everything was good, no traffic, and where was it?
Well, I've had a few of those. I mean, fortunately, I guess I drive a lot, so sooner or later you're going to get some really, really good experiences. I'm trying to think of one instance in particular.
Well, you can give us a couple examples. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I guess one would be on the Autobahn at like 4 o'clock in the morning in Germany with a BMW M6. Just ripping in 180 miles an hour. With no worries about going to jail. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
I've had some drives, like the Nevada desert.
Mm-hmm.
I go between LA and Vegas a lot, but there's a track near Vegas called Spring Mountain, and you kind of turn off the highway halfway to Vegas and drive to the desert, and you can just go insane speeds out there, and there's nobody around. A couple of those days on on like Bull Run, where you've got a great drive day in Colorado or something, and there's a lot. I mean, I've gotten to drive a lot of great cars in a lot of great places. It would be very difficult to pick one and call it perfect. There's a lot of them. Generally, any day on a good empty road with a 911 is going to be a good day. You drive a Porsche and then you drive anything else, and everything else feels kind of shitty after you get out of a well-sorted 911. There's been a lot of opportunities out there, and I've taken most of them. A stick shift Ferrari 430 Spider in Connecticut back roads. That's a good one. That's a pretty magnificent thing. I had a Lamborghini Countach on Angeles Crest Highway for filming for a whole day. That was pretty magnificent. But there's been a lot of good ones. I'm pleasantly surprised more often than I am disappointed.
Yeah, that's good. I guess that's a good place to end it all. I want to thank Matt so much for coming on. Again, if you haven't seen, you have to go out and you have to, Smoking Tire, listen to their podcast. It's great. They're closing in on 200 episodes. You got to watch Drive on YouTube. Sign up for Drive Plus. It's worth it. And set your DVR for Drive on MSNBC Sports, or NBC Sports, I'm sorry. If you are a Verizon Fios person, I know this from experience, there's a couple episodes up on the On Demand. Watch those. I know it's the same on DirecTV and Comcast from what I've researched. So
there you go. All right. That's a good plug. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks again, Matt, for being on. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
No worries.